Hi everyone, welcome back to my David Lynch series. The next episode here involves what I like to call Exhibit A in the case against turning certain books into movies, otherwise known as Arrakis, or Dune, as it's called in the title. Dune is a movie that was produced by a big legendary guy named Dino De Laurentiis. And he got David Lynch to adapt the book, write the screenplay, and direct the film. And I have to say, this is a really, really, really bad movie. I had seen it many years ago when I was a kid and didn't like it that much. In the 90s, I picked up the widescreen VHS and watched it a few times. And while I wouldn't say that it was good, it was sort of a curiosity, kind of surreal. But in watching it this last time, I thought to myself, you know what? I don't ever need to see this movie again, and I took the cassette out of the VCR when I was done, and I tossed it right in that trash can right over there. Done with Dune forever. Yeah, this is a really dull movie, and a really, really terrible adaptation of a novel. Probably one of the worst adaptations of any novel that you could come across. Half the dialogue is expository. It's either voiceover narration or characters thinking things. Half the voiceover in the movie is just characters thinking things when a simple close-up or an expression would do. They have to communicate every single one of these little thoughts in order to get the story across. I'm just like, no, you don't. You don't. It's not that vital. Oh man. Well, the story is about this guy named Paul Atreides. The movie takes place in if I'm not mistaken, 10,200th century. 10,191 is when it takes place. A long time in the future, the human race has migrated to a bunch of other planets. Most of these planets seem to be monarchies. You've got families in different worlds feuding against each other. You've got an emperor. In the middle of all this, you've got this planet Arrakis, nicknamed Dune because it's a desert planet. But it's extremely valuable to everyone else in the galaxy because it produces what they call a spice. I've never seen anyone actually season their food with a spice. It's called melange, I think. The spice melange, that's what they call it. What it does is it works like a drug. It makes you feel good. It also assists in space travel. Now, here's the really interesting part. There's a species that have evolved into these sort of water-based creatures that are the navigators. They use the spice in their water tanks to transport ships across vast distances in the blink of an eye. Kind of like if you've seen Event Horizon. Event Horizon kind of stole the idea of folding space, but basically they fold space so two different points distant in the universe, are like right next to each other, and so the ship just passes through, and in an instant, and doesn't have to travel a really long way in order to get from one point to the other. So these creatures are the only beings that are capable of actually running these machines. So all the other humans in the universe are reliant upon them to travel from star system to star system, and as a result, they have a great amount of political power. So these creatures go to the Emperor and they say, we have had these premonitions of this person on this planet who we would like to see dead because he is going to threaten our hold on spice production and on Arrakis. And his name is Paul Atreides. He's played by MacLachlan, who went on to be a regular collaborator with David Lynch. He, of course, played the lead character of Dale Cooper, the FBI agent in Twin Peaks, and he was the lead character, Jeffrey Beaumont, in Blue Velvet. Paul is the son of Duke Leto Atreides, who is the reigning monarch on his home planet. And they are in a long-standing feud with the Harkonnen clan on their home planet. The Harkonnens are in charge of spice production, or at least they will become. This is really complicated. The Emperor appoints the Atreides family to run spice production on Arrakis, but then they tell the Harkonnens to attack them and kill the Duke and kill his son so they can be in charge of spice production and everything will be fine, apparently, for the bad guys. But Paul, as it turns out, has special powers. He is a possible candidate for becoming a kind of Messiah-like figure, who they call the Quetzalcoatl Hatteract. And this is a legend or a prophecy that's been held by the Fremen, which are the people who live on Arrakis. Are you following all this? The Fremen live on the planet, and they have blue eyes, entirely blue eyes that seem to glow. And one of them is played by Sean Young, and another one is played by Everett McGill, who went on to be on Twin Peaks. Some of the other Lynch regulars in this movie are Brad Dourif and Dean Stockwell, both of whom were in Blue Velvet, and of course Jack Nance, who is the lead in Eraserhead, David Lynch's first movie. Paul is the son of what they call a Bene Gesserit witch, a woman who is in this clan of witches with psychic powers, telepathy, and what have you. And he is continuously tested throughout the movie as to these superhuman abilities that he might have. Patrick Stewart's in the movie as well. Good to see him in a pre-Picard role. So anyway, the Fremen, they find Paul after their family has been attacked on Arrakis, and they take him into their fold. And he starts teaching them his own ways, and then he goes through the trials of becoming the Quetzalcoatl Hatteract, or being the Messiah. They need to test him to find out whether he is or not, and then he's going to liberate the Fremen. Basically, it's like Avatar, but set, you know, on a desert planet instead of a jungle planet, you know. And there's no Na'vi here. There's no, like, transmutation. Well, there is transmutation of, like, what they call the water of life. And then there's these giant sandworms that they're related to spice somehow, and they, like, ride on them, and I don't know what to think of this movie, man. Okay, here's why this is a bad adaptation, in addition to just, like, all the over-explaining that they do at every second. And that is that some books have really interesting ideas and settings that are completely invented, and creatures and costumes and all kinds of stuff. But when you put them on screen, it just looks silly. In your mind, they might look cool, because when you imagine what's happening in a story that you're reading, what you're imagining is the coolest, most interesting, and most authentic version that your imagination can come up with. But when someone else comes up with it, someone else has to design all those ships and costumes, and the nose plugs, and the blue eyes, and the worms that just don't look real, and the miniatures and all kinds of baloney like that. You look at it and it just looks kind of stupid, because your own imagination could come up with something so much better. Now, they did do a mini-series of this for the Sci-Fi Channel. It was a more faithful adaptation, I think. But still, some books just ought to stay books, you know, especially when you have all this incredible stuff that's just like I mean, it has very little basis in anything that you and I know in our own culture, other than it's just being one of those heroes legend type of stories. You know, it's this sort of type of story that, you know, basically you change the names and you change the settings and you change the special powers and destinies and what have you, but they're all sort of the same thing. You've got this outsider, he comes in and he's the Messiah, and he's there to liberate the people and what have you, and you know, it's not terribly original, especially if you've seen Avatar, which I'm sure you have. There's this time. There's some dream sequences in the movie, of course, and Paul keeps going over these thoughts in his head. He keeps repeating the same things over and over again, and this isn't even the director's cut of the movie. Well, actually it is. There's a longer cut of the movie that David Lynch actually took his name off of. So it has the Alan Smithy credit instead of David Lynch, and it's even longer, and it's got more detail and everything. Oh man, can you imagine having to sit through something like that? I don't know what to think. Every once in a while, Kyle MacLachlan will have a vision of this planetoid, I guess, that revolves around Arrakis. Or maybe Arrakis revolves around it, I'm not really sure. But it's the second moon of something. So whenever he sees it, he goes, the second moon, right? So after a while, I'm sitting there going, it shows up on screen, and I go, the second moon? And Paul goes, the second moon. And I go, I thought so. So yeah, don't recommend this one. But Kyle MacLachlan and David Lynch would of course collaborate again on Blue Velvet, which is David Lynch's next film after that. And that is what the next video in my series on David Lynch will be on. So hope you'll tune in for that. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, the playlist for this series is in the link below. If you want to make a video response to any of the videos I'm going to do on David Lynch, I will add your video into the playlist as well. Neat! Thanks again. Take it easy.